everyone. I'm honored and very proud to be joined by Dr. Anthony Culpepper, Sr., again today for the second in our series of what we call presidential chats. Among Dr. Culpepper's many credentials, he serves as president of Los Angeles Southwest College and president of the board of directors of the Los Angeles County Schools Regionalized Business Services Organization. Dr. Culpepper's long career of service to California educational institutions includes working as COO and executive vice president of Glendale Community College, and prior to that, he served as a chief business officer of Bakersfield College. As president of the University of West Los Angeles, I, of course, am very proud that Dr. Culpepper is also a 2023 UWLA graduate, adding the Juris Doctorate degree to his long list of academic achievements, including a PhD, an MBA, and now a JD from our very own UWLA School of Law. I was honored to present his diploma last month at our commencement ceremonies, and we were just chatting a few seconds ago about how immersed he is preparing for the California State Bar in about 2 or 3 weeks. Following the success and positive feedback from our last chat in honor of Juneteenth, I have asked Dr. Culpepper to join me again today for an important discussion on the recent news of the U.S. Supreme Court overturning the long-standing and highly instrumental affirmative action policy for colleges and university admissions. And admittedly, I am an affirmative action student from UCLA in the 70s. I'm sure I would not be here today without affirmative action. Who better than two Black college presidents from Southern California institutions serving their highly diverse community to discuss what affirmative action really means? And Anthony, I'll throw this out to you first and foremost. Everyone wants to talk about affirmative action in the context of the recent Supreme Court decision. But I want to talk about it in terms of what you and I do every day to counter the racism in our country, the favoritism and the preferential treatments that go on by what we do every day at our institution in support of our students and breaking down the barriers to their individual socioeconomic success. So would you tell us just a little bit about how you view that from the standpoint of view of Southwest Community College and your own personal interactions?
Well, President Brown, first of all, let me just say thank you once again for this invitation to come and have such an important conversation with you. The Supreme Court decision is obviously one of many that have occurred, and this is certainly one that affects our community directly. And so I'm just really appreciative of this invitation. I do want to say that I'm thankful that I finished the coursework in December of 2022 and then walked across the stage in 2023 and really appreciate the fact that you were there and your presence and being with the students and hooding us all was certainly a pleasure. And just thank you for all that you have continued to do to support this community, and certainly for being there at UWLA and making it what it is. So the question, how profound, we are dealing with and have been at Southwest College, the reemergence of this idea of diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. And here we are with, in the face and the shadow of the Supreme Court decision, where race is not to be considered a factor in admitting students into the these quote unquote elite institutions of higher education. Now, you and I, and I think Dr. Cheney would probably appreciate the fact that I can remember some of my constitutional law right now and know that education is not a fundamental right. It is not part of that, and so we have a decision that was made based on what the Supreme Court believed was something that was unfair. However, when it comes to race, strict scrutiny was supposed to be used. And I know Dr. Cheney's probably saying, "Go ahead, Culpepper, go ahead." I appreciate him, but with that being said, we find ourselves in a situation where the community colleges such as yours, need to fill that gap because we still need to provide access to those students for higher education. And it just so happens that community colleges now have been given the green light to an extent to have baccalaureate degrees being offered at the California community colleges. We know that there are other criteria involved in getting one approved by our accrediting commission. But with that being said, it is a way to continue to make sure that a bridge is made available for those students who will be affected by this decision to continue to have access to quality education. UWLA offers that in their baccalaureate program, as well as in your obviously your Juris Doctorate programs. And this is so powerful that we are in this space and in this place right now, already prepared to serve those students. So Southwest College is engaged in this conversation. We are all in. It doesn't affect us directly in the sense that we accept 100% of the students that come to the community colleges. And so, we don't have those criteria involved, but the idea of being able to support students when they do transfer, we can have partnerships with you and others of like minds who understand that in areas that have been underserved and been kept out of education for so many different reasons. 1994 Brown versus Education, the discrimination that was going on there, and even we have to remember that this issue of the factor of race being no longer being allowed to considering admitting students. California had passed Proposition 209 some time ago, and we've been struggling with that. And the CSUs and UCs have been struggling with that, and has lost a lot of students because of that, and has never recovered from that. So those are some initial thoughts I would share, but this is certainly a timely conversation, and I appreciate being a part of it.
Well, listen, first and foremost, thank you also for participating. I can't tell you how ironic it is that not only have I had the great opportunity now to become, allied with you, and I consider you a friend, colleague, but, to have you also as part of our UWLA family. Things happen for a reason. I firmly believe that this was no coincidence. I obviously see you quite a bit walking around the hallways, and much of your time was spent during the COVID period. So I didn't get a chance to actually interact that much. But how timely it was that we did come together at the time that we did at the conclusion of your career. So that I just can't wait till you get through your preparation for the bar so that I can get you out on the golf links. But going back to our, affirmative action, what would you say? And let me contextualize a little bit, and let me just give you a little of my own editorialization. But the question is going to be, what would you say is to those who would ask, why do we still need affirmative action? And let me contextualize it just a little bit, because as you and I know, going back to Brown versus School Board, Board of Education, this had the separate but equal doctrine. Uh, race has always been a social construct. Its only value of which is to mete out those who are entitled to preferential treatment versus non-preferential treatment. And what I'm really talking about is the dominant members of our society have always used this as a tool to exclude others and provide privilege and preferential treatment to others. So it's so hypocritical and ironic that now they're saying, oh, you can use this tool to keep people out, but you can't use this tool to let people in.
Yeah.
And it's so hypocritical. But having said that, what would you say to those who would ask, why do we need affirmative action today, 2023?
Because as you stated, Bob, this the hearts of man doesn't change quickly. It changes very slowly. And we don't know what's in the heart of men. And so it's important that we have structures in place that mitigate as much a negative bias as we possibly can. And given the fact that we know that, as we just referenced Brown versus Board of Education, and even in the Jim Crow movement in the other civil rights eras where individuals were excluded from various things, not just education, loans, owning property. I mean, we can just go on and on. But these things, if you will, are in the hearts and minds of men. And so we need structures in place that mitigate unintentional bias, right? Implicit bias, and to know that a culture of people of color who have been historically excluded from education, excluded from these institutions of quote unquote elite institutions of higher learning because of their backgrounds and ethnicity. There needs to be structures in place that balance that playing field. And until we can read the minds of people, we need to have structures in place to make sure that individuals are able to get an opportunity to have equity access to these places. And so, that would be my response to that. And sadly, I say this tongue in cheek, we'll never be able to read the minds of people. We don't know where their bias is and where they have evolved. And so that means that we'll need to be able to have statutes and policies, regulations in place that will allow us, those who have been underserved and have not had access as others, to be able to have that access. And so that's gonna take the Supreme Court and the Congress and the president and anyone else who understands the significance of that, to step in and lean into this conversation, to make sure that individuals are not being denied access to these institutions.
Thank you. Perfect. Perfect. You know, I share those views, but also I'm so, I think, downtrodden at times at trying to defend, these tools that really are just ways, as you put it, of leveling the playing field, bringing things back to equal.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult, to have to always argue just to want to be equal, not to be anything better or less. I fought my whole life, as you know, to fight through these barriers and always being, the first this and the first that. But all of us, as especially as we get older and we have our children or our grandchildren, all we want them to do is to be able to play on the same playing field, have the same opportunities, the same ways of meeting their dreams and desires, and not be held back because of the color of their skin, their ethnicity, etc. These immutable characteristics that people are born with, which are really the beauties of our individualism, are now turned against us and made the instruments of our destruction.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you. I just hate to constantly have to, fight the battle of just trying to level the playing field. But I like the way that you and I do it better. For our affirmative action is to be the examples and to lead institutions that are sensitive to the needs of those who might not otherwise have the opportunity to have accessible, affordable, quality education. That's what I'm most proud about. And that's what I really enjoy about our relationship and these conversations is the fact that I think you and I are living examples of not affirmative action, but what people can do if just given a fair opportunity. You're one of the most articulate, intelligent people I've ever met, and I really mean that. And listening to you and the way that you articulate I'm sure that everyone listening to us would be, I mean, you could be the president of Harvard University. There's no doubt in my mind if given the opportunity. So, again, I really like the way that we come at it. Before we close, Anthony, what would you say to that student who comes to you and says, Dr. Culpepper, they just have ended affirmative action. I'll never have a chance to get into a good school. I'll never have a chance to improve my socioeconomic status. What would you say to them?
That good schools are not limited to those who are well branded. There are good schools. Southwest College is a good school. The 9 colleges in the Los Angeles Community College District are good schools. UWLA is a good school. You have to understand that knowledge is not contained in a brand. Those days are gone. There's knowledge that is available and accessible at credentialed institutions who have been accredited with the same accreditations as these other institutions. They have professors who are well researched, who have great knowledge, who can develop and lead you through your discipline that you aspire to grow in at other institutions. You don't have to limit yourself to those who are well branded. There are other great institutions that you have access to. So I would say to that student, broaden your horizon. Make sure that you understand that knowledge is not contained in 4 walls. So there are other places that you can go to get that same education and continue to rise and grow in your area. And once you do that, remember that it is now incumbent upon you to continue to break down the walls of those institutions where everyone can go everywhere eventually. And in each one of us who continue to do that, as you have done, Bob, in your career, coming through your education process in the time period where I have literally stood on your shoulders that your generation built and put in place. And so I would encourage those students to think that way and to really see that there's opportunities in other places. Don't be limited by where you're excluded. Broaden your mind to where you can have access and continue to grow.
Wow. Let me just jump onto that, okay, Anthony. Again, I went to one of those quote unquote elite law schools, many years ago. And obviously, I remember walking down the hallways one day, and it was after my first year, so I'd gotten over the magic, if you would, of being at that place. And I was walking down the hallway, and I kept looking. These walls feel just like any other place, any other educational place I've ever been. There's nothing magic in those walls. There was no information that I received or knowledge that I received that abounded just because I was at those places. It was what I brought to it. It's what I was willing to dig in and get out of them, out of my educational. They taught us a long time ago. At those schools, they're just professors. They're not instructors, and there's a difference. There's a reason why they say that. Okay, and so what I would say to those young men, or women who, feel a little bit downtrodden by what's happened. Again, just like you said, there's great schools everywhere. There's great opportunities everywhere. You just have to search them out. And then you bring the motivation, the tenacity, the perseverance to get as much out of those educational opportunities. You were referencing one of your professors, Dr. David Cheney, who was one of my colleagues at my law school. And, just a great constitutional professor who was a man of color. And, just an outstanding academician. He was third in command at one point in time at the California Attorney General's office. So there's great people and great opportunities on a lot of different places. I'll close on this note. I have resisted many times. U.S. News and World Report, some of the big rating agencies have come and they've asked us if we wanted to participate, and I've continuously resisted it because I don't want to get into that competition, which is really about things other than truly the quality of education that go
Right.
into making up those rankings, those algorithms. Unfortunately, I know the young people of today and their parents are absorbed by those because they really don't have any other indicia by which to judge the schools. But those are really not about truly the benefits to the student as it is to the promotion of those brands, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I've resisted it. And I hopefully will never allow UWLA to participate in that because I think the word of mouth that we receive speaks to the quality of the education that we provide. So I
Absolutely.
think with that said, my friend, I think that we've covered a lot this morning.
Yes.
I I just can't thank you enough, Anthony. I just can't thank you enough for these conversations. They're always very enlightening, inspiring to me, and I learn a lot, believe me. So
It's always
thank
a
you.
pleasure to be with you.
Any closing comments you would like to make?
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be with you, Bob. I certainly enjoy our friendship that we're building, and these conversations they force me to think deeper and harder about how Southwest College can continue to serve its students in adding value to their lives, and certainly the relationship that we're building with UWLA. Look forward to that relationship to continue to be built because I think that we have a unique and opportunity to really impact this area where we are. And those students need us to be there and to be there for them to give them those options and those pathways. So thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure, my friend. I know you got to get back to those books and essays, in preparation for the bar exam. In
Oh
case I
yeah.
don't see you between now and then, I wish you the best. And man, it's just these are just great conversations and a great friendship. Thank
Thank
you.
you.